Today we're talking about overcoming negativity bias, how to focus on the good in life. Here's something you probably noticed. Gravity is always on and default is down. This is true in our psychology as well. These 6 tips will help you to stay on the positivity side when the world is trying to pull us down. So let's jump in. Tip number 1, practice identifying both the upsides and the downsides of everything. One of the traps that we run into as human beings is that we tend to grab one or the other and we think all or nothing, that it's all black and white. But really, when you think about it, there are upsides and downsides to everything. Wait, can this be true? Really? There's upsides and downsides to everything? You know, a couple of months ago, I was on my way to the office. I had a webinar set up with 200 people enrolled to come and learn about creating hope on demand. And as I was waiting to go through the intersection, just thinking about all of these people that I got to serve in less than an hour, my thoughts kind of tuned everything else out. Well, the light turned green, and as I slowly proceeded into the intersection, bam! Out of nowhere, somebody comes through the red light at 40 miles an hour and totals my Toyota Tacoma pickup truck. May it rest in peace. Now, thankfully, everyone was okay. But this threw a bit of a wrench into my plans for the day. Thankfully, I had a team that was able to step up and help out with the webinar. What about something like that? You know, when life just hits you out of nowhere and totals your plans, what could be the upsides of that? It's a pretty good question. But psychologically, it's usually not a question. It's a statement disguised as a question. What could be good about this? Hear the exclamation point? See, it's not a question. It's a complaint. It's a protest. Put a question mark back on it. What could be good about this? What could be the upsides in this? I tell you, from that car accident, I have seen a number of upsides, including being introduced to Kate, who was my angel and took care of me during that difficult time, to Karen, who showed up and gave me a ride where I needed to go. She's an old family friend of ours that I got to reconnect with in that moment, all the way through to an insurance settlement that allowed us to switch out an old car for a newer, safer vehicle that Vicki and I now get to enjoy. Are there any upsides to this? Find them. Get good at practicing to identify both the upsides and the downsides for everything. Here's tip number 2. Acknowledge your choice. Now, you'll notice that you don't get to choose everything that happens in your life. Sometimes it just comes out of nowhere and smacks you. What is your choice? Your choice has to do with what you focus on. And what you focus on, you feel. What if I were to focus on all the downsides of that accident? I would be feeling pretty wiped out. And there are downsides, trust me, and it's normal for humans to see the painful, difficult part of something. It's a little harder sometimes in a painful circumstance to see the upsides. What we focus on, we feel. Acknowledge your choice. Your circumstances aren't making you feel any particular way. You get to choose what you focus on. Tip number 3, lay off of the should. Enough already. Sometimes we think we should think differently. We should feel differently. Here's a tool that I've found that really helps. It's a simple phrase, or not. Or not. Let me tell you a couple of ways I've used this. I had a client in my office, and he recognized and realized as he learned how to operate the equipment of his own mind through the powerful psychological principles that we were discussing. He said, "Dr. Paul, I just really need to think differently. And I said, or not. You know, he almost came out of his chair. He's like, but I want to. Well, I can get behind that. You want to think differently, but we're moving it out of the should. It's not that you need to, or that you have to, or that you must, or that you should. It's simply an option. And when we use the phrase or not, it brings that to the forefront of our mind where we can actually exercise our choice that we already talked about. It's simply a choice. What do you want? I really enjoy making these videos for you, and I've got a few more tips, but you are brilliant and you've got some good ideas as well. Would you share what your ideas are right down there in the comments? Let's see what we can do to help each other come up with some good ideas. And then I'll give you the rest of mine too. In fact, here's tip number 4. Manage your inputs. What inputs? The inputs to your brain. What are you listening to? What do you engage with? Who are you reading? What podcasts are you subscribed to? How do you spend your time, and what is it that you're putting into your mind? You know, I did a training recently with a whole room full of people who got to do this experiment. And I had 2/3 of the room close their eyes while the other third of the room were shown a couple of words, and I had them memorize and think about and connect with those words. And then they closed their eyes, and the middle section opened their eyes. And I showed them different words. I had them think about it, memorize those words, and then they closed their eyes. And then the last third of the room, same thing. And then I had everybody open their eyes, and I showed them one word that was missing a letter. And I said, what's the missing letter? And each third of the room said a different letter. Why? Because of the input that I had already given them. Your brain is going to take whatever you're putting into it and manage that around to a point where that becomes your output too. What we think about comes about. And people tell me all the time, oh, it doesn't affect me. I can watch the violent shows and it doesn't affect me. Or I can play those video games and it doesn't affect me. Or I can view that pornography and it doesn't affect me. Look, it affects you. What you put in becomes the material that you create what you put out. So watch the inputs. Just do a little audit and see what it is that I'm listening to, that I'm watching, that I'm using for entertainment. And it will make a difference, I promise. Manage the inputs. Tip number 5 has to do with one of those inputs. It's music. And music is a powerful way for us to connect with our emotional experience as human beings. But a lot of people make a mistake when it comes to their music. See, our tendency is to match our music to our mood. My tip for you today is to match your mood to the music, meaning you select the music that carries the mood that you're trying to create. It's a lot easier to go the other way around and say, well, I'm feeling really angry, so I'm going to listen to angry music, or I'm feeling really sad, so I'm going to listen to sad music. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to avoid the negativity bias and actually power up your own mind, pick the mood that you want to feel, put that music on as your input, and then you match your mood to your music. This has to do with energy and a principle in physics that we call sympathetic resonance. In fact, I've seen this demonstrated. If you take a tuning fork, I don't know if you've seen those before, it's an instrument that they use to tune other instruments. It's just a little metal fork and bing, you get it ringing at a certain frequency. And if you take that fork along the strings of a harp, for example, when it comes to the one with the same frequency, that harp string will start to sing right along with it because those energy waves are going on and there's a resonance there. It's attuned to that frequency. And our brain does a very similar thing. If you start playing music that's operating at this energy and your mood is down here, there's a dissonance. Now it's easier to just bring our music down to match our mood. That's what most people do. What I'm suggesting is bring your mood up to match your music, and then there will be resonance again. That takes a little work. It feels a little unnatural, but try that out. Match your mood to the music. Now, I promised you 6 tips. Here's number 6. Find someone to serve. This is powerful. I got to share the stage last week with Meg Johnson. Go look her up here on YouTube. She's an amazing, inspiring speaker. She's quadriplegic after accidentally jumping off of a 40-foot cliff when she was a young woman. And now she goes about spreading positivity, and one of her core messages is service. I was talking to Meg about this because she doesn't even know why service is important. I know the psychology behind it. And without getting into all of the details about the psychology, here's what I've found. When we seek to serve other people, it changes our mood. Like I said, there's a lot of reasons for that. But if you want to overcome negativity bias quickly, go out there today and find someone that you can make a meaningful difference for. It doesn't even matter if you know them or not. I was actually one of the trainees in this training. I try to enroll in programs to sharpen my skills all the time. And as I was going through this training, they gave us a break. And during the break, they said, now, you're gonna go out and you're gonna have your dinner or your lunch or whatever break it was. And you're gonna find 3 people to make a meaningful difference for. You have to do that before you come back after lunch. Well, that's a weird assignment. But it was so compelling. As we got out there, there's a small group of us that were like, okay, how are we gonna do this? And we went over to Home Depot, and we're just looking for someone to serve, right? When you look, you'll find, I promise. And as we're sitting there in the parking lot at Home Depot, we see this elderly couple coming out with one of those flatbed trailers, and they've got 2 toilets loaded onto this flatbed trailer. I don't know what happened at their house, but they're pushing this flatbed trailer out to their car, and I thought, beautiful. I'll go help them load these into their car. And I went out and offered my help, and this older gentleman who's pushing the cart, he said, oh no, we're fine. And the lady is looking at me like, yes, please help. Because he's got a bad back, and it's just, he could use the help. Well, I grabbed hold and I pushed it out there. I helped him get it into their car. And then this kind gentleman just turned to me and he said, thank you so much. That was awesome. And they went on their way. Now that's a simple thing. How did I feel? It gave me a boost. And I knew that service is important, but as I was experiencing that in the moment, it made this huge difference for how I felt. What did it do for them? It made a meaningful difference. Go try this. Find someone to serve. I promise that when you look for someone to serve, you'll find someone to serve. And then notice what it does to your mood. Hey, if you want to take this up a level, go to the URL on the screen right here, drpauljenkins.com/positivity, and I will put you right into a free hope class. I call it the hope class because I've learned how to create hope on demand, and I'm going to share that with you in the class. Come see.